Transcription 1, 2, 3. Speed 100 words per minute. Start. Now, from the point of view of labor also, this measure is very important. I am giving all the arguments. The second 5-year plan admits that in order to keep up production in the country, in order to develop our industries, it is of great importance to enthuse the working class and the workers. It is the correct approach. As far as words go, nobody will quarrel with it. In fact, we would like more and more workers to be enthused. Such measures should be brought in more and more in order to make the working class see that with the increase in productivity on their part, at least there is improvement in their living conditions, that with the increased production of consumer goods in the country, they get more resources in their hands to buy the things that they require, to spend more money on their children, on their housing, on their health, on the education of their children, and all that. You have to create a situation like this. You have to create a feeling like this. You have to make provision for this. Even from that angle, it is necessary that this should be accepted. Labor enthusiasm cannot be created until and unless you relate the increase in productivity to an increase in the living standards of our people. More production, more money in the pockets of the working class. More money in the pockets of the working class, more consumption of their daily necessities of life, and less privations and difficulties. Am I wrong in this? I would ask the honorable member to say. Therefore, on that score, it is essential. Then, even from the point of view of industrial expansion, it is essential. You will ask me how. I will tell you how. Now, it means that if this Provident Fund contribution is not taken from them, to that extent the money will be the working class, and this money they would be able to spend in the market as customers and buyers of commodities. What does it mean? What are the economic implications of such a thing? Such a thing means that the demands for consumer goods in the country will go up. There will be expansion in the internal market. It is very essential when we talk about the industrial expansion that we also ensure expansion in the market. Unless there is a growing demand in the country for the industrial goods, you cannot have the expansion of industries. Expansion of industries does not take place in a satisfactory way, disregarding this factor of expanding consumption in the country. In order to ensure expanding consumption on the part of the working people, it is necessary for you to make more money available to them for consumption. Now I will be up against the question, what about the savings of the community? You will ask, should not the workers contribute something towards the common savings for our country? I say do not start with the workers' savings, those who are not in a position to save. You cannot expect those people who are not getting 2 square meals a day, whose children go without education and other elementary necessities of life, to go on saving in an uncertain provident fund by undergoing all manner of denials at present. You cannot expect such a thing. Therefore, it is not a question of saving on the part of the workers. That money which you give him is invested in other sectors of economy by way of increased consumption, which stimulates you industrial production. But we are saying do not keep the gap. If that gap has to be filled, get the money from the capitalist class, the class which is in a position to save. By adopting such a policy, there will be a lot of savings. Savings takes place not at the cost of the worker, not at the cost of contradiction of the whole market, not by stifling the stimulants that are required for the industrial expansion in the economy as a whole. Savings takes place on the basis of those who are in a position to save. All that money which would have been otherwise spent left in the hands of the capitalist class for unproductive purposes in importing race horses and perfumes and all manner of things would be available for being spent on clothes, books, medicines and other things which are essential for the vitality of the community and for its healthy growth. Therefore, from any angle that you judge, this mayor is a very good mayor, and I think the Honorable Deputy Minister would not mind accepting it. He is somewhat allergic to me and to the communist benches generally. I am very sorry for it if we caused this king of allergy to anybody. But he need not be allergic to us in this matter at all. We have followed some of the state's objectives in the second 5-year plan, pronounced objectives in the second 5-year plan in formulating and presenting this bill to this house. We would not have done it had we thought that this is such a fundamental thing that he would never accept it, that this is something which is not at all within your domain. We think the honorable members of the Congress party can accept it. We read their speeches. We also read the deliberations of their various party meetings and sessions. We read some of their publications, and we are, of course, surprised at the declarations that they make from time to time. We take note of them. We take a serious view. We attach great importance to them. Therefore, we feel that the Congress members opposite can easily bring themselves up to accept this measure. This is in line with their thoughts. Whether these thoughts are being translated in the government's official policies or not is a different matter. But this is something which is untouchable for them. Transcription 1 to 4. Speed 100 words per minute. Start. Sir, this amendment relating to Clause 8 is most important and it affords us yet another opportunity to explain to the government and to all those friends who do not still see eye to eye with us that Clause 8 is perhaps the blackest clause in the bill. We have made it very clear, Mr. Deputy Chairman, that we have very many clauses in this bill to support. That is a matter of great satisfaction to us. Now, sir, whatever the government may be saying, whatever the Prime Minister may be theorizing, whatever new discoveries may be made by him with regard to the proposition of linguistic states and whatever accusations may be made against the other parties of breaking the unity of India, the fact remains that the States Reorganization Bill as we have it before us recognized in practice the reorganization of India largely on the basis of language. Nothing can be detract this outstanding fact with regard to this bill. Therefore, sir, let us be very clear about it. It is not something that we are saying for the first time, and it is not something which is very extraordinary. The whole bill is based on the acceptance of the underlying principle of linguistic reorganization of states. A number of states on the basis are going to come into existence. But when we come to that region of Maharashtra and Gujarat, we find a different type of dispensation meted out to them. There is no logic in it, there is no reason in it, and there is no principle in it except that the ruling party, because of certain reasons, suddenly decided upon taking this preposterous course. Mr. Deputy Chairman, Clause 8 creates a bilingual state of Bombay. But I can tell you straightway that the bill was circulated to the various state legislatures. It did not contain the provision of the kind that we have before us. Thus, the people in the state and their legislators in particular were denied the opportunity of addressing their mind to this particular clause which we have before us. They discarded certain other things too. It was open to them to discard this matter also. They could not foresee that the government would suddenly so change its mind that it would be necessary to discuss it. They concentrated on the provisions of the bill based on the recommendations of the Commission. They had before them two important documents, one of the Commission's recommendations with regard to Bombay and the other the proposals contained in the bill that went to them. They concentrated only on those things and they could never have seen that certain honorable gentlemen would collect together in the lobbies signatures of various members on a little piece of paper and flaunt them before the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister, who has not been easily changeable in regard to this matter, would suddenly change and accept the suggestion for the creation of a bilingual state. That is how this clause came into existence. And today, sir, in this house, we are called upon to support this clause regardless of what the Maharashtrians think about it and regardless of what the Gujaratis think about it. Mr. Deputy Chairman, it pains us when we hear the Honorable Minister talking in one breath with regard to Himachal Pradesh and other states about the people's will, and yet when it comes to the question of Gujarat, that right is denied to it. We find today before our eyes the mighty upsurge of the people of Gujarat demanding a linguistic state, and it is perfectly known to the government as to anybody else in the country that the people of Gujarat to a man are opposed to this provision of the bill. And also, sir, the people of Maharashtra are opposed to this bill. Are these not facts? Can you explain why you are ignoring them? I found grave silence on the part of the Home Minister when he spoke in reply to the debate. He had nothing to say about the situation obtaining in Gujarat except to express his feelings for Shri Morarji Bhai Desai. All of us have got feelings for him, but greater are the people of Gujarat. I should have thought it that the tumultuous development which is shocking Gujarat to its very depth would have stirred the conscience of the honorable ministers. They should have told us as to what is this thing that is happening there. They should have told the House why they are ignoring the feelings that are coming from Gujarat, that this particular provision has got to be amended. They did nothing of the kind. They remained silent. Mr. Deputy Chairman, in the course of the debate, you know that I tried to find out as to how the government's mind was reacting to the developments in Gujarat. Honorable members of the Treasury benches thought that silence was golden in this case. How is this the way for a responsible government to function? Is this the way to establish the authority of democracy? Is this the way to present to the parliament, to the people, this question? I should have thought that honorable ministers would give the best of thoughts to the developments in Gujarat even at this late hour and see whether that situation could be met. We wished certain changes in the bill which would be acceptable to the people of Gujarat. A dogmatism has taken possession of them. Once they have decided that a bilingual state should come, they decided that it shall remain. I tell you that you are swimming against currents. You are fighting against the forces of history. Mr. Deputy Chairman, we were surprised to hear the Honorable Home Minister talking about the unanimous verdict of the Lok Sabha. It is true that when the bill was put to vote, finally there was not a single dissenting voice. How could there be? Because there are many provisions in the bill. Transcription 1 to 5. Speed 100 words per minute. Start. Mr. Vice Chairman, we are discussing the railway budget today. This railway budget will open a new chapter in the history of this house, a chapter which is of a very discouraging nature. The budget has been presented for the first time in this house by minority government. So the people of the country do not find any improvement or any future with this budget, because in every budget there is political will behind the budget. But in this budget we do not see any political will for the development of railways in the country. The Indian Railways are the biggest public enterprise in the country. It is the largest in Asia and the second largest in the whole world, managed by a single management. It plays a very vital role in the field of economic development of the country. Every sector of the society, be it rich or poor, every man or woman is affected by the performance of the railway department. Madam, this budget generally covers half of the economy of the country and affects the people in their multifarious problems. In this budget, the railway minister claims that he has given relief to the weaker sections, which is not true. The exemption in the railway freight for the essential commodities is of peripheral nature. This kind of exemption is a poor consolation, because these articles are already bearing fairly heavy freight charges. I had considered the railway minister to be a very dynamic person earlier. Now that impression has been taken away from my mind by his presenting this kind of a budget in this house. He has committed a great mistake by increasing the passenger fares and railway freight rates at a time when the rate of inflation is already high. The restricted increase is also bound to affect the weaker sections of society. Another glaring factor is increase in regional imbalances. For example, the southeastern region has been badly neglected in many respects so far as railway development is concerned. I do not want to encourage the feeling of regionalism, but in this budget, this matter is so glaring that I cannot ignore mentioning it on the floor of the house. While new railway lines are being opened every year in the northern states, even sanctioned projects and sanctioned lines in Odisha are being stopped or delayed for years together. Madam, as you know, the Paradip port was started 20 years back. In order to connect Paradip port with the hinterland of ore mining areas, a railway line was started some 16 years back. But that line has not yet been completed on the plea that this portion of the line is not viable. This line is meant for carrying iron ore from the mining areas to the Paradip port for export purposes. So far as the railway map of India is concerned, you kindly have a glance over the map of Orissa. You can easily imagine how Orissa was neglected. Before independence, Orissa had got two lines, fortunately or unfortunately. One is the coastal line. The Britishers wanted to connect Calcutta and Madras, so they had the coastal railway line. In the western sector, the Britishers wanted to connect Bombay and Calcutta. So, fortunately, some portion of the Bombay Calcutta line went through Orissa in the western sector. But apart from these two lines, nothing has been done. Madam, the Southeastern Railway headquarters is situated in Havra. Havra is a place which does not belong to the Southeastern Railway. The people of Orissa have been claiming and demanding since long to shift this headquarters from Havra to Orissa because the major portion of the Southeastern Railway is in Orissa. But up till now, the government has not taken any steps to shift this headquarters to Odisha. Last year in the Orissa Assembly, there was a unanimous resolution in the House to shift this headquarters from Calcutta to Bhubaneswar or Cuttack. But nobody has given any importance to this demand. In the last elections, we faced a lot of trouble. Of course, the government in Orissa now has promised to the people that it will fulfill this demand, a long-standing demand which Orissa has been demanding for 40 years to shift this headquarters from Calcutta to Bhubaneswar. It is to be seen how the government of Orissa and the government of India help in shifting of the headquarters in Orissa. If you look to the present transport system of the railways from Delhi to Bhubaneswar, the state capital, there are two superfast trains. One is the Neelachal Express and the other is Puri Express. They have been named superfast, but while the Puri Express takes 32 hours at the minimum from Delhi to Bhubaneswar, the Neelachal Express takes 36 hours. While these trains have been named as superfast trains, actually they are super slow trains. There is another train coming from Puri. It is named as Utkal Express. We call it Bharat Darshan train. This train starts from Puri in the morning and it again enters Orissa the next day. It starts from Puri, goes to Kharagpur and then to Tatanagar, and next day it about 2 o'clock again enters Orissa. It touches West Bengal, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and then come to Delhi. So this is perhaps the national integration train. It takes 52 hours to reach Delhi. Now I would make one submission to the Honorable Railway Minister regarding the retiring members of the House. Since long they are demanding railway pass for their journey. Up till now the government has not considered it. I would request the Railway Minister, if he considers this case, he will be remembered because it is their long-standing demand on behalf of the ex-MP Association. So I request him to consider this demand favorably and grant them railway passes like retired railway employees. Transcription 1 to 6. Speed 100 words per minute. Start. Sir, I agree wholeheartedly with the sentiments expressed in favor of public cooperation, in favor of the importance of public cooperation. I would like to place this question of public cooperation much higher than they have done in relation to the success of our 5-year plans. It is indispensable for the success of the 5-year plans, not only for the 5-year plans but also for the progress of the country in every direction. Public cooperation is of supreme importance. When we think of a plan, usually it occurs to us that the requisites for the successful implementation of it are materials, machines, financial resources, and personnel. Of course, personnel is very important, trained personnel of all categories, but I personally feel that there are those other things less tangible which are even of greater importance. When these have been secured adequately, those other things will follow. They are a sense of unity in the country, a sense of discipline in the country, of and enlightened and enthusiastic cooperation of the people in all the various development programs and the various schemes for the building up of the country. Therefore, I think that a discussion of the question in this house has been of very great assistance. We think of the people merely as if they are beneficiaries of the plans. They are much more than that. They are, of course, the collaborators and makers of the plans, and it is only when we succeed in securing that realization on the part of the people and that effective contribution from the people on that basis that things really will start moving very much more quickly than they do now. Our whole concept of public cooperation is very limited. We think of only people attending our meetings and of a little shramdan here and there. The idea of public cooperation is very much deeper than that. It is much more fundamental. There are millions of people in the country who are in the fields, factories, and offices. The moment they begin to see that it is on a little better work, harder work on their part that the progress of this country depends, that realization itself will make for greater, quicker, and accelerated progress. As was pointed out by one honorable member, it is a question of attitudes. It is a question of a certain perception, a certain understanding. There has to be an understanding of what is going on in the country, what the prospects are before us, how they are related to our welfare as individuals and as families, and also to the welfare of posterity. There is also something more than this intellectual appreciation. It is an emotional link with all this is happening. Public cooperation, therefore, has to be understood in that sense. It is the atmosphere which is created in the country in which all these schemes and all these development programs are going to function, that is important for their success. That atmosphere depends upon the people, their minds, and their attitudes. there is also the question of resources. People help not only by their work, the resources also are drawn from them. They pay in various ways, taxes, loans, etc. If we want to step up our development, investment has to be increased. The resources for the public sector and the private sector come from the savings of the community. This means economy and avoidance of wasteful expenditure. One honorable member said that austerity should not be restricted to the workers only. I never said that austerity should be practiced by the poor workers. I have always fought for higher wages for them. Certainly, if we see that there is a small number of people who are rich, well, that small number also has to be called upon to avoid ostentatious expenditure and avoid wasteful consumption and wasteful expenditure. When we are thinking of a more equitable distribution and putting more money in the hands of a larger number of people, it is not only the savings of a few that are going to push up the resources needed for the plan. Let it be very clear. It will have to be the savings of larger numbers of the community that will make the plan a success. Of course, it is always understood that those who are at the lowest rung of the ladder certainly have nothing to spare, but at various levels beneath that of the people who may have crores and many lakhs, there are various groups whose savings are required, and if we are to go away with the impression that it is only the income tax payer and the rich whose savings and whose austerity are going to be sufficient, then it is not going to be so. The question of harder work, more honest work, economy austerity in various degrees, these are important for the plan. There is the question of the sense of discipline, of how we behave towards each other and how we provoke each other. The occasion may be very small, but it may appear at the time to be something of a crisis, but when it is considered in relation to the vast question, development of the country, the future of the country, the small trouble which arises out of one thing or the other pales into insignificance even from the point of view of the larger interest of those very groups. If they create disturbances, if they create a commotion, if they create a sense of insecurity, that is bound to hamper the progress of the plan, and they will suffer, among others, perhaps much more than by anything that they may gain by the things which provoke them into those things. It is just incidentally that I have mentioned this. There the people have to cooperate, but there is the other aspect. Of course, they have to bear the brunt of it. The initiative for public cooperation has to be theirs. Transcription number 127, speed 100 words per minute, start. Mr. Deputy Chairman, after hearing this discussion, which has been threadbare. There is very little new to be said on the subject, and I will just say a few words by way of expression of the public views on this important mayor. As we have seen since morning, there is no section of the House which has welcomed this mayor. This is apprehended to be unnecessary because we have seen there are two main things as far as this amending bill is concerned. One is in regard to the summary eviction of the occupants, and the other is unauthorized occupation. I would like to say that it may be that administratively the government is faced with some difficulty, but as it has been stressed in this house, this question is more of a human nature than of any other administrative difficulty. Who are the people who are affected by this mayor? In the first instances, they are very poor people who are living in slums and in those undesirable conditions, or they are refugees from Pakistan. We have seen that even rich people who came to India as refugees have had to take shelter in any corner or in the verandas or on the pavements wherever they could find a little accommodation, and they lived for years under conditions which were most unhealthy and undesirable. In due course of time, these people have been able to put some roof over their heads. As it is, it seems that the provisions which are sought to be provided in this amending bill are very innocuous. But in view of the fact that it will affect mainly the poor people and refugees, naturally it becomes a human problem, and the legislators have to be very careful before they give their assent, because they have to deal with the public directly. And therefore, whatever comes before the House, they have to see from the public point of view. I would submit that ordinarily there would be no difficulty in giving assent to this bill. Firstly, even when they occupied the premises, they had to face real harassment at the hands of the municipalities and also the improvement trust and others. Now they have got some shelter over their heads, if they are to be removed from there, they have to be treated very kindly. I dare say just now the Honorable Health Minister in a very sympathetic way explained the real position, and I am sure the conditions would be as she has promised them to be. But even then, we will have to take the extreme cases and see that these unfortunate people who were at one time middle class people or even rich people and are today refugees do not have to run from pillar to post for even a little space and a little shelter over their heads. If due to some mistake of the authorities or red tapeism or due to ordinary administrative difficulties, the lower authorities take a strong view of it, then their condition would become really harassing and very inconvenient. I would therefore submit that this summary eviction is a great sting in dealing with such kind of people who are very poor and especially who are refugees. As far as the land is concerned or the premises are concerned, government already possesses the authority and power. Now they want to extend this authority even to the houses, and therefore this summary eviction is rather an objectionable thing. I do not know what difficulty the government feels in not going to the law court whenever any person becomes unreasonable and he has to be removed and he does not want to go. More than one honorable member has on the floor of the house stressed this point, and I will submit that the sting will be taken out of this whole bill if the summary eviction provision is removed. In case of necessity, the government, like any other private individual, can go to the law court. Secondly, in regard to unauthorized occupation, also this provision has been made in clause 4C. This new clause becomes a little difficult to be understood in the sense that a man is unauthorized although a previous authority had authorized him to occupy that premises or that house. Now the government seeks to get the power to even declare that men who at one time had been authorized to be now unauthorized. This is also a very inconvenient provision as far as the poor people are concerned. Well, I know that once government bring a mayor before this house, government rarely want to retrace their steps. The government is determined to have this bill passed. If the house had been left free, probably it would reject it, and this amending bill will never be passed, but by the employment of whip, they would be able to pass it. I would in that case submit to the Honorable Minister that when such occasions arise, when a person has to be evicted, alternative accommodation should be provided to such an unfortunate person near his place of occupation and near the place where he has got work. Of course, the Honorable Health Minister, as a lady and also as a humanitarian, and because of the portfolio she holds, is very kind-hearted, and she has given us a very special assurance that these people will be given every facility and it will be treated as a human problem even after passing the bill. She has also told us how under the new conditions people have appreciated the position. But even then, why are these people living in the slums? They are living there because they have no other means. The Honorable Health Minister just now told us that they have been given accommodation in a better place where ordinarily they would have to pay rupees 12. Now they are charged only rupees 6 or half the rate for such poor people. Transcription number 128, speed 100 words per minute, start. Sir, I welcome this bill because it is the first attempt to create and provide further technical personnel so necessary in the country. It is very well laid down that this institute is the first in the chain of 4 high-grade technical institutions proposed to be started in the country to improve the tone of the engineering and technological education as well as to meet the present special needs of the industry which could not be achieved in the normal way. On these 2 special clauses, I would like to offer some remarks. Because first of all, we see that the tone of technical and engineering education is not at present what is desired or is necessary in the country. We should try to improve it, and I can assure you that we cannot improve it in 5 or 10 years, and this is the first attempt, and if all efforts are made to improve the tone, it will be in the largest interests of the country. The special needs of the country are increasing, and the branches of engineering and technological education are multiplying every year in our country also. So the degrees and the courses will have to be multiplied. These are the 2 important points why our students are going in hundreds to foreign countries to acquire degrees in foreign universities, because the training imparted is not adequate for the purpose for which it is meant, namely to render service in the industry in which they wish to join later on. I wish to say here that this institution should be sufficiently financed, and for want of finance, it should not suffer in getting the best professors for training. Then the atmosphere that is to be created for imparting training is very important, because technological engineering education is quite different from academical and theoretical education which is at present given in universities. For that, especially, I welcome this association of undergraduate studies, because if undergraduate study is there, then it creates an atmosphere for those students to follow it and pursue it to postgraduate studies and in functional research. That is very important. I still say that if it is followed in all the 4 high-grade institutions, then it will be useful. We should not fight shy of it, because we are woefully lacking in technical skill, and that skill has to be created. That can't be created unless we have an atmosphere where students mix with each other in a fraternal way and discuss among themselves freely. It is not only by lectures by professors that they learn. It is also by the students getting together that they learn these things. As regards the suggestion for affiliating the institute with the Calcutta University, I don't endorse that suggestion. This is a different institution from the present universities and colleges, and the training that to be given in them is also different. I think mere theoretical training is now given, and we are lacking in technical training, and we should improve our tone considerably in that respect, and we should make this a model in our country. There may be coordination of this institute with the 4 others that we want to establish, but there should be affiliation with no other university. My third point is that the Education Ministry must make a census of how many students are going for technological and engineering degrees in foreign universities and why those students, after their fundamental research, after acquiring their PhD degrees from those universities, after acquiring distinction in their training, are not returning to this country to serve our industries where we so much require them. If the Education Ministry goes into this fact, they will find that there are about 300 students both in America and in Europe working in the factories after getting their PhD degrees, after acquiring the highest qualification in composition with other foreign students. Can we not get them into our country? They will serve our cause much better than there. Why are they denied this opportunity? Because we have no openings here. We should make efforts to bring them here. They have been working for 10 or 15 years in some factories in foreign countries, and we are permitting our factories in foreign countries, and we are permitting our factories and the public sector to draw upon IAS officers for management. IAS officers are good for working in administrative jobs, but for working in the factories, they are of no use. Therefore, import those 300 or 400 students who are residing in those foreign countries, who are working in those factories after acquiring their degrees in competition with foreign students by even giving them their terms if necessary. I think the terms offered to the Indian Administrative Service or the Indian Police Service should be different from what should be offered to technical personnel. It should be so because if a man is properly trained, he can reduce the cost in the factor by 10%. A reduction of 10% in the cost of production will go a long way. If, for example, the original cost is about 1 crore of rupees, then this would mean a saving of 10 lakhs of rupees. This is done purely by their technical genius, and this genius has gone out of the country. This should be brought back and they should be taken on their own terms if necessary. First of all, those engineers and other technicians who are working in foreign countries should be persuaded to come here. We are working under a system wherein we get only the IAS officers and not others. We should ask our ambassadors to make a list of such persons. They will be satisfied to work in India on a much lower salary. Even if you get a very highly qualified men from our factories, the Union Public Service Commission does not endorse his application. Transcription 129, speed 100 words per minute. Start. Sir, this bill has met with such general approval throughout the country that it does not stand in need of any long introduction from me. The Lok Shayak Sena has been functioning during the last 18 months. It is aroused great enthusiasm. It is now public knowledge that our aim for the present is to train 1 lakh of people every year. The scheme is for 5 years and we mean to do this by means of holding some 500 camps in a year. We use 10 months of the year avoiding the monsoon seasons, and we hold these camps in different part of India in practically every state. One camp was held in Jammu and Kashmir, and we have also camps down south everywhere with huge areas which are generally close to community welfare project centers. Sometimes the state governments have represented and emphasized that in order to rouse public enthusiasm and to awaken public consciousness, we should hold these camps in other centers also. In these 18 months, somewhere about 1,50,000 people have been trained. The response has been very fine, and everyone who is between the ages of 18 and 40 is welcome. People generally come from the rural areas and all castes and communities are represented. The camp is for 1 month and the conditions under which the trainees live are military conditions. Free ration is given and free uniforms are given, and when the camp is dispersed, an out-of-pocket allowance of rupees 15 per head is given to the trainees. I have visited them and I imagine some honorable members might have seen these camps too. The conditions under which the trainees live are just like military conditions, and they lead during that 1 month a fairly strenuous life. Military training is imparted. There is physical drill, there are the marches, rifle shooting and all that. To those who are not literate, an effort is made to give some instruction, and particularly instruction in what I may call the art of making a good citizen of India. Our aim is to utilize this 1 month to create a sense of leadership in every trainee, because it is not merely our purpose to give them military training, but to make them better citizens and to make them take an active part in the life in their own village. As the house knows, throughout the countryside there is a wave of enthusiasm flowing. People are most anxious to help themselves. There is the Shramdan movement. There is a desire to build roads and dams and to spread the gospel of education, and what we require is leadership in the village itself, a sense of discipline in the village, and we are hoping that this training that we impart, apart from the purpose that it may serve in times of need whenever there is an emergency, in peacetime also the training will be useful and it will rebound to the benefit of the country at large. All this costs a lot of money. The annual expenditure is a crore of rupees, and for 5 years, if we proceed on these very lines, it will be rupees 5 crores. This bill has become necessary because we wanted to have some rules and regulations, and while these trainees were living in a camp life, they had to be subject to military discipline, and therefore we wanted to put it on a regular basis. The bill as it stands commits government and commits the parliament to no limitation. I wish to emphasize this because if the movement spreads and if there is a general desire in the country throughout the community for military training, if there is such a general desire for expansion and if Parliament approves of it, then within this very bill it will be possible to extend the number from 1 lakh a year to 2 lakhs a year. It will all be a question of money. It will be a question of the provisions to be made for training purposes. I wish also to emphasize here that we are giving 1 month's training. The House will be aware that this movement for giving military training and had its origin during the last 3 or 4 years on some scale. The House knows that apart from this Lok Shayak Sena, during the last 4 or 5 years, efforts is being made to give military training to various classes of our people. For instance, we had in our schools and colleges the NCC movement. The NCC course imparts military training, and from among them, boys are sent up to the military academy at Khadakwasla near Pune. Similarly, we have opened the auxiliary cadet corps, and for the purpose of providing military training to the people living in urban areas and employed in industrial concerns, mills and factories, we have the territorial army. And in order to provide better and further means and greater facilities, we started the Auxiliary Cadet Corps in 1953. But it was on a limited scale. The period of camp life was about a week in the beginning. I think it was extended to 10 days and the allowance paid was ₹5. The response to it was great. People were very ready to come and take advantage of it. Then this Lok Shayak Sena was started and a longer period of training was provided. I am mentioning all this because if experience proves that the period is too short, that it should be a bit longer, then there will be nothing to prevent the government with the approval of Parliament from extending the period from 1 month to 2 months so as to make the military training effective. Honorable members have seen that the bill is what you call generally of a providing character. It is a piece of delegated legislation. It says that the prescribed authority shall do this. Transcription number 130, speed 100 words per minute. Start. Sir, coming to revenue receipts, I feel the railways can earn a sizable revenue if they tone administration, cut down wasteful expenditure, repair wagons and coaches in time to increase their life span, which would save huge expenditure. Otherwise, these wagons and coaches would be disposed of as scrap iron. I suggest more sheds and more repair workshops are to be established and timely repair work is to be taken up. The railways should also control thousands of ticketless travelers, and revenue can also increase by checking damage to railway property, wagon breaking and theft by anti-social elements, for which huge compensation is being paid by them. Vast land adjoining railway lines has been illegally occupied, and if this land can be reoccupied and can be properly utilized, then the railways will be able to earn more revenue. Indian Railways received a World Bank loan of $400 million. Besides, the railways have received $190 million as loan for the Asian Development Bank for loco procurement and for importing new technologies, and the Exim Bank of Japan co-financed the loan with $100 million credit. Nothing has been stated about this loan as to how it was utilized, and this fund should have accountability at least to the members of this august house, and the railways should work vigorously to promote tourism by providing a mode of transportation which is not only economical but has a special fascination for the tourists. For this purpose, the Honorable Minister will have to work in consultation with the Minister of Civil Aviation and also the states, and this will help the railways to earn more revenue. I understand the Indian Railways are a founder member of ESCAPE, that is Economic and Social Commission of Asia, the Pacific. Since the Indian Railways enjoy international cooperation, I would like to know whether this relation has further improved so as to receive more funds from them for overall development of the railways and also for the technological upgradation, modernization of the railway system, and also whether any exchange program for technical assistance has been formulated, as this would considerably help the Indian Railways to improve the existing infrastructure, the technological upgradation of the network, upgradation of the communication network and computer-based freight operation system, and more computerization of passenger reservations in metropolitan towns. I believe funds that would be available through international cooperation may be utilized for improvement purposes and for increasing revenue, and it would not be necessary to hike passenger fares and freight charges as proposed in the budget. In the annual report and accounts 1988-89 of the Indian Railways denied information on research and development has been given on pages 34 to 38. It has been mentioned that the research, design and standard organization functions as advisor and consultant to help the Indian Railways in all technical matters. Scientists, technologists, educationists and senior executives are in this body. I would like to suggest that in this regard, that is in technical matters and in connection with the technical improvement and technological upgradation, the Indian Railways should work for research and development in collaboration with IITs, universities and national metallurgical laboratories and other national laboratories under the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. More research and development centers need to be opened, for which there should be provision in the budget. It should provide funds for further technological developments. Now, Madam, coming to the question of railway safety, I regret to point out that we have not been able as yet to completely eliminate railway accidents or even to substantially reduce them. Only a few days back, the railway minister made a statement regarding a serious accident involving the Dehradun-Bombay Central Express, which took place on the 14th of this month. To my mind, the possibilities of rail accidents can be substantially brought down by an all-round vigilance of the operation staff and by exchanging operational efficiency. I do not know if it is possible to evolve some sort of foolproof arrangement whereby a train moving on the line can receive back positive signal through ultrasonic system about the existence of another moving train from the opposite direction. Such ultrasonic systems are used by navigators in order to protect their ships against accidents which with iceberg. Can similar signaling system not be used in trains also so that accidents can be avoided? The Honorable Minister has mentioned about passenger amenities. At present, the long distance passengers, even in super fast trains, do not get reasonable comforts during their journey. Many unauthorized passengers from the intermediate stations without any reservation forcibly get into reserved compartments and disturb the bona fide passengers, and more often the railway staff are unable to provide any relief. This is very unfair and should be put an end to, especially now when there is a steep increase in the railway fares. The railway minister should look into the comforts of passengers. I would also like to mention that the passengers should get amenities like having pure drinking water, good food and some entertainment. I have observed in foreign countries that there are film shows or some such entertainment for long distance passengers. I think there should be some arrangements for entertainment here also in the near future. I don't want to take much time of the house, and I think there should be some improvement in the railway catering service, and also some sort of relief must be there for the long distance passengers. Reservation should be properly done. While concluding, Madam, I would like to say that the railway staff should be given more amenities like housing, Medicare and education so that they can live comfortably, as they are rendering great service to the nation. With these words, Madam, I conclude, and I thank you once again for giving me an opportunity to speak on this matter. Transcription number 131, speed 100 words per minute. Start. Mr. Vice Chairman, Sir, through this proclamation, we are discussing the problem of a very important unit of this country where the President's rule has been promulgated. While supporting the resolution, I want to make some observations not only on Mizoram but on the entire northeastern region, where the political situation continues to cause concern for this country. Very often we talk about insurgency, but to me In the northeastern region, even before independence, we were fighting for the identity people were asserting, and we were asserting for our very survival in this country. By nature, tribals are very sensitive and they are very suspicious as far as their identity is concerned. In this wide Indian culture, naturally the tribal people in the northeastern region have felt that unless they assert their identity, they would become totally submerged and they would become second-rate citizens in the country. That was the fear that they apprehended, and it grew over the years. Another movement, I do not call it insurgency, was a political movement in Nagaland by which they had adopted a policy of non-violence, peaceful approach to the solution of the problem, but when they were pushed to the wall, they had to take up arms, and they never called themselves Naga Army, they called themselves Safeguards. It was a part of the undivided Assam. Because of the police action, they had to defend themselves, and gradually it had developed into a political movement, and they had to take up arms to defend themselves, to protect themselves, to protect the village. In this way, this kind of political movement continued not only in Nagaland but also in other parts of the northeastern region. This was followed by Mizoram, then again Manipur, and today this malady has been spread to Assam also. So do not take it only from the point of view of insurgency. I would urge this august house that the feelings, aspirations, the longings of these tribals in the northeastern region have got something to do with their survival for their existence. May I state here that in Nagaland, though it is a small state, it is a small tribe, we have our own history, we have our own political background, and it was no other leader than late Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru who recognized the identity of the Nagaland. It was Pandit Nehru who gave that political identity to Naga people. And therefore, the Naga people even now remember how great was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. He was a father of the downtrodden. He was a father of the people there. Let us come to Meghalaya. The same agitation was going on, but fortunately Meghalaya could emerge without shedding any blood, and through a peaceful process the state of Meghalaya was carved out. And this was given by no other person than Mrs. Indira Gandhi. Mizoram emerged after more than 2 decades of struggle under the leadership of Lal Denga. They had been fighting for succession from India. It was through the good offices of the government of India, the people of India, and also the political wisdom of Lal Denga that he came round to join the mainstream of national life. Why should we not give credit to Lal Denga for this? It was he who took the step that we should be a part and parcel of the Indian Union. Shall we not give him the credit? So I would request the honorable members not to utter any uncharitable words against Laldenga just because there is president's rule there. Whether president's rule is there or the elected government is there, Laldenga is also there. How could he come to power after the last election? I would remind this august house that the tribal people are very considerate. It was Mr. Laldenga who highlighted or projected the Mijos in the eyes of the people of India and the world. Mijo people are proud people, very hardworking people, and they know what is best for them. Therefore, when this accord was signed, the Mizo intellectuals and the Mijo people said, why not give chance to our leader, Mr. Laldenga? He fought for us. He lived in difficult conditions for us. And they brought him to power. His party was given the mandate by the people. But sir, administration of guerrilla people is quite different from a normal administration. In a guerrilla warfare, in a guerrilla movement, there is might that is the destiny of an individual, the fate of an individual, the fate of an organization. But in a normal administration where we have to function under the Constitution of India, we have to be governed by normal rules and regulations and procedures. Here, I believe Mr. Laldenga, who has been used only to the guerrilla methods when he was given the reins of normal administration, felt the difficulties of running a normal administration. He could not satisfy not only his MLAs, his partymen, but also his followers, because one can promise heaven, one can promise the sun and the moon, but in actual implementation, one cannot satisfy the feelings, the aspirations, and the urges of all the people who follow him when he was leading a political movement. Similar is the case in Assam. AGP promised so many things to the people, but when you are given the actual reins of administration, you are bound to fumble. So they are also suffering. Similar is the case with Laldenga. Don't blame only the Congress government. Defection was not by Congress people, it was among his own colleagues, among his own men. About this anti-defection law, I think the philosophy behind it is also full of defects and loopholes. When an individual is killed, we call it murder, but in a war, when we kill thousands, we don't call it murder. Similar is the case with anti-defection law. Therefore, this house should do some rethinking on this. Transcription number 132, speed 100 words per minute. Start. Mr. Chairman, Sir, Shri Chavan presented the Union Budget for the first time in his political career. Shri Chavan is a very experienced politician and an able administrator. He has held a number of important positions in the past. He has been the Chief Minister of a progressive state like Maharashtra, Home Minister, and Minister of Defense at the center, and held a number of other positions. I am impressed by his abilities since long. The way be given an account of his experience and far-sightedness while presenting his maiden budget is indeed commendable. This budget is commendable and significant in many respects. The tempo maintained by the government since 1980 for alleviating poverty and providing employment to the people is praiseworthy. The efforts of the government have resulted in an increase in these activities year after year, and this too is commendable. But this year, the Honorable Minister has broken all previous records as he has given special impetus to the poverty alleviation program in the budget. The most significant among all these programs is the Jawaharlal Nehru Rozgar Yojana, under which there is a proposal to provide employment is one member in each family in 120 districts. It is in itself a revolutionary step. Our party has decided that employment must be given to at least one person in each poor family all over the country. Though details of the program as to how this scheme will be implemented and how employment will be provided are still to come before us, yet I would like to praise this bold decision, the benefits of which will reach lakhs and crores of people throughout the country and will provide relief to them. A number of concessions have been given to poor people in this budget with a view to providing them relief, but at the same time it gave a setback to the middle class. So far as I can understand, the budget will in no way affect the rich people. First of all, I would like to draw the attention of the Honorable Minister to poverty alleviation programs because the government is earmarking huge funds for these programs. Now it becomes the duty of the central government to see that the money reaches the people properly. It is not today only but for years that the honorable members have been expressing the view that the beneficiaries do not receive the full amount of money that is earmarked for them. There could have been some difference of opinion had even 25% of the funds reached the people. But it is an acknowledged fact, and the government, even the Prime Minister, had admitted that the money released from the center under poverty alleviation programs or employment programs does not reach the people. It is all the more distressing that in spite of the fact that we agree with this view and know everything so far, no effective step have been taken to ensure that the full amount reaches the people. Only 2 agencies are involved in this work. The central government allocates the money and the state governments implement the programs. It is the central government that knows the extent to which the guidelines issued by them are followed by the state governments. One thing is certain, that once the money reaches the district and block level, the central government has no control over it. It is said that monitoring is being done. But how and in what way it is done? So far, I have not seen any representative of the central government going to the block level and verifying the work done or inquiring from the people and listening to them. The central government has not taken any steps in this regard. The Honorable Prime Minister has also been saying that out of 6 rupees, only 1 rupee reaches the people and the remaining amount is spent on administration. I would like to cite the instance of Uttar Pradesh. In this state, there is a district development officer in each district to look after the development works. Nowadays, all works have come to a standstill. The officers have no work to do. The District Rural Development Agency, a parallel agency, has its parallel office and parallel staff. But the agencies of the state government are silent. Nobody knows what they are doing except attending to routine administrative work. Most of the state governments do not undertake any development work out of their own resources. Construction of roads in rural areas is the primary work of the state governments. But no state government is utilizing its resources on construction of roads in rural areas. They are undertaking this work with the funds received from the central government. Salaries are being paid and expenditure is being incurred, but the department of the state government is sitting idle with no work. Is it not possible for the concerned department of the state government to undertake this work? It could have been converted into the District Rural Development Agency. What is the need of separate departments, separate bureaucrats, and separate staff? The entire funds are being spent on the maintenance of staff. Honorable Minister of Finance might be aware that the state governments do not want to mobilize resources. They are not imposing any fresh taxes. We come to know from newspapers and AIR and TV news that such and such state passed a tax-free budget. Today, no state is prepared to impose any tax. They want to undertake all the works with the funds received from the center. Every state, whether it is the Congress ruled or non-Congress ruled, alleges that the central government is discriminating against it. It has become a tendency with the state governments not to levy any taxes. They want to depend entirely on funds given by the center. All the state governments, whether it is the Congress or the non-Congress government, want to avail of the credit facility.